Hey everybody, this is Dr. O again here with another video. Thanks for subscribing and hitting the notification bell. If you haven't already subscribed and hit that bell, make sure you do so you can stay current on my videos as I release them. This particular video is geared toward those who struggle with inferior thoughts. We all at some point may have, or at least we know people who have. I'll briefly discuss some reasons why those feelings might exist and how to move past it and what to focus on. In particular for today, I want to focus on saying no to that inferior mindset. Saying no to that inferior mindset. We can look at it, feelings of inferior thoughts. We can define it or view it in a number of ways. Another different constructs, such as competence or self-doubt or worthlessness or failure. And it's Merriam-Webster, I believe, defines it as of little or less importance, value, or merit. And when we talk about inferiority, we must keep in mind that our actual social environment plays a part in the creation of these inferior feelings. Likely, when the feelings emanate from a negative social comparison. And we create these ideas of what we are and what we should be at the moment and in the future when we're younger. And as we continue to age, we continue to redefine, and we also recognize deficiencies in our lives on a continuous basis as well. It's when we recognize these deficiencies that feelings of inferiority can manifest in our lives, right? Which it usually happens when our desires or our ambitions for our life, if they don't pan out. You may have feelings such as depression as a result of having these type of feelings. Now, the mind can be compared to others or to ourselves. And I'll get to that, what I mean by ourself in a minute. But compared to others, it's easy to see and to understand and even how feelings of inferiority can creep in to our life, such as, let's say you have friends who get promoted, or they buy a house or a new car, or they graduate from college even. And those are some examples of of how you would compare yourself to others. Or let's say they're able to step into any conversation, speak eloquently, and with abundance and substantial, they can talk about a variety of topics. While you, on the other hand, let's say you've never been promoted. Let's say you not only didn't graduate from college, but you've never even attended college. Let's say you've never bought a new house or a new car. Comparing yourself to others, their their accomplishments. It's a modus operandi. Yeah, a modus operandi of our mind, where it can be a good thing to compare ourselves to others. For instance, if we use it to what they have going on to motivate us, inspire us to do better, to improve our own circumstances, to improve our own life. It can help with your self esteem, even. But it can also be bad if we're comparing ourselves to other people. It can be kind of dangerous. It can harm us, especially if those comparisons have you feeling on a consistent basis like you are inferior. Let's say you're comparing yourself upward. Let's say you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you don't like the body that you see. So you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you don't like the body you see. And most places you look, or even all the places you look, all you see are fit people who are in great shape. Now let's narrow it down some. Let's say you see someone who's, I don't know, a decade or so younger than you. They don't have any kids. They go to the gym every day of the week, 7 days a week, sometimes twice a day. their work isn't as strenuous as yours while on but you can only go maybe once or twice a week. You're older again, about a decade or so. You do have kids, and your schedule just don't allow you to do what other people do. It can comparing yourself upward in this particular sense, things may seem insurmountable, and your inferior feelings could actually creep in without you knowing. Now, that person who is super fit and younger with no kids, you're comparing yourself upward from a fitness standpoint. And similarly, if you notice, let's say you're going downward, let's say you notice commonalities among someone you think is less than, at least in a particular area. Let's use this fitness thing. So let's say, I know, let's use something else. Let's say someone you know is constantly getting laid off of their job, but not just laid off, but fired. Their incompetence is known, and or they're always quitting their job. And let's say you just define them as a loser or any negative connotation. Now imagine that they don't have a job. Now you don't have a job. You find yourself without a job, just like that person. This is potentially a time. Yeah, this is a time where the self is corroded. You may feel inferior, just like the person that you labeled as inferior, that person that can't keep a job. They're always getting fired. They always quitting their job. Now, that's about comparing yourself to others. What about having an inferior mind compared to yourself? I don't know if many people think in those terms, but you can have an inferior mind if you're comparing yourself. Uh, and what do I mean? Inferior mind compared to yourself is that time when you have thoughts such as, I'm not where I want to be in life, and I know too many people who feel that way, or they have thoughts about they should be further along academically, for example, or they're ambivalent about their life choices that they made, and due to the fear of failure or wanting to try something new, they kind of just stay where they are, and or even looking at your past accomplishments compared to the lack of accomplishments you've done lately or in the present. So comparing points in your life, especially then to now, when it can cause you to feel somewhat at least inferior to yourself if your then was deemed a better time for you than your now. Now, making comparisons is a human impulse, and we can't really shut that down 100%. So we must know what to look for, and there are many things, aspects to look at, and I'll mention just a few of them. So one, we can build our self-confidence, right? We can act confident. We can, and if we act confident, our confidence can grow. I think you may surprise yourself if you just act confident and see how that manifests into reality. Embrace what you are doing and accept what you're doing. So you can either accept it, what you're doing, or do something about it, right? So another way is to hang around people who will uplift you. I've noticed in some people that their feelings of inferiority are linked to, directly tied to the people that they hang around. It can be family, friends, loved ones, people at work, but it's linked to the people that they're hanging around. Another one is to stop worrying about what other people think. Stop worrying about what other people think. We spend way too much time, in my opinion. We spend way too much time worried about the thoughts of others, what they think of us and how they feel about us, and we need to forget about their opinions, right? We need to forget about their judgment, what they feel about us. It's our thoughts, or it's your thoughts and your opinions and your belief that count and should count. The last one, yeah, this would be the last one. So the last one I want to talk about as far as how to get over feelings of inferiority is to stop having these discussions, these debates, or these arguments with people with an inferior mind. And let me expand on that, what I mean by that. I think it's important and it's not given enough attention to not argue or have debates with people that have an inferior mind. Sometimes when we communicate with people, we come down to their level, and I think either you all are watching or people or maybe you've seen it where when we're communicating with them, we come down to that level, and if their level truly is an inferior level, then at least for a moment, we are in their world of being inferior. So why argue? Why have these discussions with an inferior mind? I've learned a long time ago to never argue with an inferior mind. So once I realized that I'm talking to an inferior mind, I actually just stop the discussion. I'll change the conversation. I'll Sometimes I'll just leave the conversation altogether. And I'm not talking about inferior overall or they're inferior because I have X amount of degrees, so I have certain or X amount of college degrees, or I have certain titles behind my name and they don't. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, let's say, inferior in a given subject. For example, let's say I'm a graphic designer, and I'm not. I'm just using it as an example. Let's say I'm a graphic designer with 10, 15, 20 years of experience, and I'm having a discussion, an argument, or debate with someone who doesn't even know what a graphic designer does. And they're trying to argue with me about the best computer software to use and the best way to develop a production design. Or let's say someone who has failed a particular subject in school. Let's say they've failed every math class they ever attempted. Yet they are trying to argue with me about which mathematical equation to use to solve a problem. That's what I mean by inferior mind. So if the person you talk to, hopefully, if they have an inferior mindset or an inferior mind to a particular uh, subject. So that's when I say inferior mind, I'm talking about in that particular context. So if you want to save yourself some trouble, some headaches, some heartaches, never argue with an inferior mind. It's useless and may likely even frustrate you. So again, I don't think this gets enough attention, but never argue with an inferior mind. I can't stress it enough. And I'm not suggesting that you call yourself better than anybody. That job belongs to other people. That job belongs to someone else. For them to point out if you're better than or you're elevated more than they are. I'm saying if they are inferior in a given area, save yourself that time and that energy so that you won't be as frustrated. In doing so, will actually reduce your chance of feeling inferior, even if only for a moment. As I finish up, I'm reminding you that you must be careful when you're comparing yourself, your life, your situation, your circumstances to others, especially if you aren't one who consistently or constantly or routinely look at yourself in a positive light. So regardless of what it is you're going through, if you think you aren't where you should be, remember that tomorrow could always start out better. Tomorrow can always be a new start for you. Regardless of the version of yourself that you see in a mirror or the version of yourself that exists today, your goal should be the best version of yourself right now, and especially going forward. That should be your goal. Let's make tomorrow, the version of myself tomorrow, be better than myself today. This doesn't mean to stop doing anything today just because you're focused on your tomorrow being better than today. you shouldn't, again, it doesn't mean to stop doing anything today or stop trying to grow today. It means you should strive each second, each minute, each hour, each day to be the better version of yourself. Now you got to be honest with yourself. Got to be honest. Don't think you have arrived at a place just because you've reached part of your goal, part of your dream, or part of your aspiration. Don't be complacent. Complacency is easy to obtain when you're thinking you're doing something. I've experienced that. I know quite a few others who have. It's easy it's easy when you think you're moving in life. Just because you're moving doesn't mean you are working toward a goal or a dream or an aspiration, or that something's happening to you from a positive standpoint. We can't confuse movement with action. We can't confuse action with change, and we can't confuse change with growth. All growth, no, all change is not growth, just as all movement is not forward. So we need to keep that in mind. So don't compare yourself to others, especially upward in a negative sense. It has to be a fair comparison. But don't compare yourself to yourself from a then and a now, because that's another way for inferior thoughts to creep in. All right, so I'm gonna conclude there. I thank you all for watching this video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell. And this is Dr. O signing off.